Welcome back to an obscure tour at the edge of the internet. I am your host, the Nameless Tour Guide, and today we are ascending up to the glories of the City of Gods and discussing the two brothers that called it home, the two brothers of Anor Londo. And before we begin, a quick correction from the last installment. This is not the Unreal Engine. This is a proprietary engine built by From Software. I'm not sure what I was thinking. Though there would be tools to handle the particle effects, and I'm definitely going with the idea that the people who worked on the remaster had a justification for the changes that they made. And now on with this installment, and this is a weird episode for me. I'm really struggling with how to handle it, and I'm probably overthinking it. So just to say up front, this installment contains a discussion of sex and sexuality, just like the episode in Blighttown. And then for me, the far more awkward part of the installment, we are talking philosophy and religion. Because I believe philosophy is something that is very personal, and it can be grating to hear it discussed at a high level without nuance on some YouTube channel. And the discussion we have here will be very high level. We don't have time to go really deep on it. But we have gotten to the philosophical heart of Dark Souls, and so I think it should be introduced, as it does help to see the interplay of the themes and why they were chosen. We'll add a new collection of symbols, their origins, and allow us to see the characters in a different way. It's all going to be at the end, and it's not necessary. We've gotten this far without mentioning the religious concept of karma, and except for one spell, we don't need to. So if you were just here to check out the symbols of the story, and you've got the philosophical side of things, you can bounce at that point. So let's get going and check out the City of Gods. And notice here where we fought the Iron Golem, a crater, a symbol of menace dropping the flame. And here we are in Londo, the City of Gods. Notice we were brought here by 3 scaleless dragons, and behind us is perched a 4th. The City of Gods is where my journey with Dark Souls started, and it was a great place to start because it neatly sets up the rules of the visual language found elsewhere, as it tells the story of Sen, the firstborn of Gwyn, and Gwyndolin the Dark Sun. We will find an artifact at the end that will tell us Sen had his status as a god taken away. Near it we will meet Gwyndolin, who is still here. From that knowledge we can decipher the story of the brothers that is known to the fans of the series. Because there are 2 brothers, most things in Lower Anor Londo are symmetrical. Where the symmetry is broken is their individual story. And while we don't get all the details, we get enough to make it feel real, unlike the catacombs, which is a hard thing to decode at first. And now importantly, the fleur-de-lis, a visual cliché found throughout history, the symbol of a flower. Flowers in Dark Souls are very important, as they are symbols of transcendency. We saw flowers growing from solid stone in the Darkroot Garden. In the Capra Demon fight, we saw green vines growing from solid stone. A green bud has infinite potential. It could be anything, but it has no form. Once the bud blooms, its potential is lost, but it has a fixed form, giving it structure and purpose. That structure and purpose is what Gwyn desires, and so his city has flowers carved into stone, but none that grow organically, pointing to the artificial nature of his order. Above the entrance here we have a special tile that we won't see much elsewhere in Anor Londo, another infinite knot, like we found on the grave in the graveyard, 4 small circles surrounding a large circle. And that pattern marks a chamber that contains an already lit bonfire. We have found another firekeeper. And so here we have the firekeeper who still serves Gwyndolin, the Dark Moon Knightess.
Well, you are a rare visitor. Welcome to the lost city of Anor Londo, chosen undead. If you seek Lord Gwyn's old keep, exit here and head straight yonder. If you are the chosen one, a revelation shall visit thee. What follows thereafter depends upon you. What is it? What am I? Well, I am the keeper of the bonfire. If not for me, what beacon would there be in this lost city? A gatekeeper and a guide. That is my calling. The bonfires attended by the keepers are special. They are linked to one another, and their flames never die. Yet never shall the keepers of these flames meet.
The firekeepers are gatekeepers and guides on the journey, but also notice they are never allowed to meet. We have met two firekeepers, one who cannot speak and one who cannot be understood, but now we start to see they aren't allowed to share in each other's company.
You require rest. Now is the time. That is, after all, what the bonfire is for.
Now notice the colour theme of Anor Londo, represented by the tiles. That is also seen in the design of the keep. Black and white representing the two brothers. Here they are mixed together to show their fraternal bond. And the Knightess, who is aligned with Gwyn, sits on that side of the room. On the other side we find an empty space. The side with the firekeeper represents Gwyndolin story, and the other represents Sen. Also, the firekeepers are a cycle that represent Velka's story. The first is found in Quaelag's domain, and this firekeeper represents the second part of Velka's story that we are just reaching. Velka as Queen of Lordran, and that's why the firekeeper sits in Anor Londo opposite the throne room that we will find in the cathedral. She is dressed in regal bronze armour, the metal of the gods before the age of brass. Velka usurps the power of Anor Londo with her capital, Izalith. Returning to the brothers, forget for a moment what we discussed last episode. Using just what we found in the chamber, we can see the side closest to Sen's fortress is the story of the Nameless older brother. Therefore he is associated with Sen and his fortress. The simplest explanation I have for that is that he is Sen and he owns that fortress. If we allow that to be true and chase that idea, a lot of things show up, and for me a story appears, the story I'm telling you. But could Sen be a different character? Absolutely. But then who is that character? What did he do? Why did he run the fortress? And where is he now? A bunch of questions I can't find answers to, and believe me, I've tried. But if Sen is the firstborn, I believe I can find satisfying answers to all those questions while also answering different questions for the missing brother, such as why did he lose his status as a god? But if in the end that is not good enough, well, that is important as well, especially for this installment. And here we have the statue of Ornstein the Dragon Slayer, and according to his armor set is believed to be the captain of Gwyn's knights. Whenever Velka couches her language like that, it's a signal that something isn't right. I believe Hawkeye Goth is the captain, but we will get to that later. Notice the spear, a symbol of Sen. Also notice the lion face, the mark of a construct. And even though he is made of stone, when we find Ornstein, he will be coloured gold and red, the colours of Sen. Gold, the legacy of Gwyn, and red, fire and blood, the legacy of his mother, the Witch of Izalith. And over on this side of the statue, we have ourselves a Demon Titanite, a bizarre addition to this statue, and when I first found it, I had no idea what to make of it, so I ignored it and just kept going. After a while, I realized it connects Ornstein to the Nameless Blacksmith deity. Then I found that it connected him to the constructs, and ultimately I found it connected him to Manus, his creator. Now let's head over to the other side of Anor Londo, the side representing Gwyndolin. Above we see the Duke's archives, the home of Seath the Scaleless, connecting Gwyndolin to his grandfather and to show his nature as a scaleless dragon. As we fight these knights, notice the particle system. They evaporate into nothing. This happens to the barbarians in Blighttown, but they are followed by a fountain effect. They are turning into liquid. Here we don't see that effect. That is because these creatures are illusions, seemingly real, but can be banished if the player takes certain actions that we will get to later. What we are seeing is moon sorcery, the magical art of illusion taught to Gwyndolin by his mother Priscilla, who I believe learnt it from Velka and her books. And here we have the glorious armor set of Smo the Executioner. It is many things, but is also part of Gwyndolin's story. Notice the large breasts, a warped version of what we saw on the target shield. Also notice the flowers, the symbols of transcendency on a fat object, both presented as though mocking the idea. And next to it we find the Twinkletide Knight. Inscribed on it the Elder Futhark rune Naudiz, meaning survival and endurance. Gwyndolin is still enduring the legacy of his family. Also, this Titanite represents the idea that Smo is a giant, not a construct. We introduced the mimics last episode, but now we can really see the visual design of these creatures. Notice the mimics also seem to disappear like the metal giants, but you'll see at the end a circular explosion upwards like a spirit being released. This resembles the Black Knights we have fought. They are both transcendent characters and will not reappear until the next playthrough. And in this mimic we find a crystal halberd, the halberd a symbol of Priscilla, Gwyndolin's mother. Also the crystals are different from the water powers we've spoken of before, and that is to show Priscilla's story, which we will talk about when we visit her in the painted world of Ariamis. Notice Sen doesn't have a chest representing his mother, showing the difference between Priscilla and the Witch of Izalith. Sen can figure out life for himself, while Gwyndolin is held close and loved by his mother. And up here we find the entrance to Seif's domain, and it is blocked by a giant golden screen. And there are 3 of these doors around Lordran. When we try to pass, we are blocked by a Great Lord's power. At first it seems to be just a gameplay mechanic designed to make sure players don't enter late game areas before they are ready. With the message and the gold colour of Gwyn, this gate appears to be the will of Gwyn. Once we place an artifact known as the Lord Vessel, these walls will disappear. Gwyn seems to want us to place this vessel, but he is also currently imprisoned behind a door. Strangely, that door can only be opened by following the pilgrimage that ends with us killing Gwyn and succeeding him. Gwyn does not go peacefully. He fights us as though challenging our right to succeed him. But then, why help us here? Why not let the chosen undead prove their wisdom by knowing when to retreat? Why is it said to be sealed by a Great Lord's power at all? Just the power would suffice. Why not just have Frem tell us to go into the archives, like we have in Dark Souls 2, once we pass the Shrine of Winter? Nearby we have a character who just described herself as a guide and gave us direction to Gwyn's keep. But before that she said she was a gatekeeper. That the path to the keep is already open, we just have to find the way in ourselves. She is guarding this gate. These questions point to the idea something is wrong with the pilgrimage. It is literally a gated experience. And on from that, there are attempts to cover the mechanics of that pilgrimage. Why bother with all these theatrics? And now we have respawned the illusions of the knights, and we can see again the simple story of the 2 brothers. Notice the placement of the sun, on Sen's side showing the connection to fire and light. Gwyndolin is on the shadowy side of the city, with just a few god rays. The shadows are made from the light, which reminds us the darkness, the light and the fire are all connected, and in opposition to the night. On Gwyndolin's side we see him defensively guarding the way to the archives. But he also looks down on Anor Londo. He didn't turn his back on his father's city. On Senside, a knight guards the way from the fortress, an aggressive protector, but he has turned his back on Anor Londo and the sun. And here we have the glorious elevator. This was where I first noticed what was going on with the city. With this simple design at the top of Anor Londo, two suns overlapping, the two brothers I'd heard about elsewhere in the city, and in the middle a disk that when raised is a brilliant sun, and when lowered is eclipsed, a dark sun. And at the bottom we find an even more brilliant light, a symbol of the master of the city, Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. Strangely at the bottom of the elevator, as though secreted away. Also notice the bronze spile that grinds horribly like a machine. This is a giant meat grinder. And at the bottom an ambiguous image. A crow that weeps and also a woman with a shroud. A symbol of the Witch of Izalith, who was meant to call this place home. And possibly a dragon, Priscilla, the woman that took her place. And here we have one of the two gargoyles. It leaps forward to attack us as we try to approach the drawbridge. Another aggressive protector and a symbol of Sen. This gargoyle has been locked out of Anor Londo on this side of a raised drawbridge. When we last saw the gargoyles, they represented Velka and Manus in an uncomfortable forced bond in Astora. Here we see two gargoyles again, representing a bond between dragon and giant, the two brothers, and this time this bond is fraternal and it is a welcome one. Ahead we see a raised drawbridge. The main entrance to Anor Londo is blocked. No one wants us to be here, so we have to find another secret way in. Also note the stone flowers on the banisters, a symbol of transcendency of the people who lived here. Ahead we see two figures carved in stone, once again the brothers. And secreted away at the back we find another staircase, a criminal back channel into Anor Londo. We are passing by a large building on Gwyndolin side. He inherited the joy of family, and that building is a repository of that legacy. On Sen's side we find an empty space. He refused that joy. Even more hidden in the depths, the mark of a thief, the nameless blacksmith deity, Manus, who built this place for the gods. We can see on the space on Sen's side there is a sunken library, a symbol of history being lost. And under the stairs a small figure bathed in light, once again the firstborn of Gwyn. And on the other side we will find his brother Gwyndolin, the Dark Sun. The two are connected by a tunnel, showing their bond. And now we find another way. We head up on a path that is not meant to be taken, climbing on the roofs of the city to make our way through. A smashed window. Other vandals have tried to enter this place. And when we are here, we are immediately ambushed by the security of this place. Notice these humanoids don't vanish like the knights. That is because they are not illusions. They are people who are charged with protecting this place. The Painting Guardians. Notice the design on the banister. This is the design we found in the elevator at the Undead Church, surrounding the eternal knot design of the elevator that leads to New Londo, surrounded by statues of the Daughters of Chaos. The circular design found there has been squared to show the inorganic nature of Astora and everything that followed. Now notice the perilous situation we are in. One wrong step, one slight distraction, and we will fall to our death and have to start again. And in the distance something starts to appear, something unexpected. Above the room we find a beautiful bronze chandelier, no longer lit. A treasure is tangled within its arms. We are offered a choice by a chain. Slice it and destroy something beautiful, or cut it down and find the knowledge within. And here we have the beautiful and wondrous Gwynevere, Princess of Sunlight, appearing out of the horrors of Lordran. There are many tales of Gwynevere that is shared. They are wonderfully true, wonderfully fun, and for some, wonderfully horrible. Gwynevere is appreciated from a distance, known for her two famous companions, the two Silver Knights. No, of course, her large, enormous breasts barely contained within her dress. She is a symbol of bounty and fertility. Gwynevere is a vision of an ancient fertility goddess. But this statue specifically allows us to see another side of Gwynevere, as it allows us to see her from another angle. Rather than a full feminine face, we can choose to see a more masculine figure, with a hard brow, a strong jaw and a large chin. Notice her broad shoulders. And from here we see something just as powerful and as important as her two humongous breasts, something that goes to the core of Dark Souls. Now notice the chest across the way. To get there we must cross the altar of the princess, something that could be viewed as a blasphemous act. And while we are here we can see the feet of Gwynevere. Notice her feet are positioned just like the statues I have attributed to Priscilla found around Lordran. This is because this statue is part of Priscilla's legacy. Now notice the path we are starting to make as we cross the altar. When viewed from the front, it can be seen as a very elaborate figure 8. And here we find the chest, and within the divine blessing. The Divine Blessing. Holy water from Goddess Gwynevere. Fully restores HP and undoes irregularities. The Goddess of Sunlight Gwynevere, daughter of the great Lord of Sunlight Gwyn, is cherished by all as a symbol of bounty and fertility. Within the city of Anor Londo we find the legacy of the two sons of Gwyn. So where in my theories does Gwynevere stand? She stands as she does in this room, with Gwyndolin and Sen. This item description is a truth and a lie at the same time. Behind the chest sits the hieroglyphs of Gwynevere. At the top we have a kindly mother looking over a manger. In the middle we have an oven in a kitchen. At the bottom a basket of bread. As symbols of grain and wheat spiral around, a set of symbols that could have once been associated with Priscilla in the catacombs. And so we finish the figure 8, an eternal cycle that is perpetuated by Gwynevere, Princess of Sunlight, a lustful motivational force that pushes us forward, an item that gives us the ability to ground ourselves in this world when all hope seems lost. The cycle of soul and humanity with Gwynevere at the center.